There are a lot of issues the UK will face during the Brexit process. However, few of those issues will be as difficult as the complications surrounding the Irish border. Back in 2016, the UK voted to leave the EU, with 52% of voters choosing to leave. But when you look at that data on a country-by-country basis, you'll notice a different trend. The majority of people in Northern Ireland voted to remain in the EU, with 56% of people voting to remain. Despite this, they'll still be leaving the EU alongside the rest of the UK. And this creates a major issue which is unique to Northern Ireland. England, Scotland and Wales don't share any borders with the EU. Northern Ireland shares their island with the Republic of Ireland, meaning that Northern Ireland has an approximately 310-mile border with an EU nation. To make things even more complicated, this border has around 275 crossing points. There are even roads which cross back and forth between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. Currently, none of this is an issue. Both nations are part of the EU Common Travel Area, which means that the border between the two countries is very open, and you can simply move from one country to the other. In fact, it's so simple that you can get through without needing a passport or having to pass through any customs procedure. Brexit is where this gets more difficult. When Northern Ireland leaves the EU, there will likely have to be more substantial border rules than those which already exist. Theresa May says that she wants the border to remain frictionless. However, this seems impossible. The UK simply cannot leave the customs union and continue having a border with the EU without introducing new customs checks. The checks are a requirement under EU law. Mandatory customs checks do make sense. When the UK leaves the EU, both will have different taxes and tariffs placed on imported goods. Let's say hypothetically that an independent UK puts no taxes on the import of tea, however the EU has a 50% tariff on tea imports. If there were no customs checks on the Irish border, you could import tea tariff-free in the UK and then take it to the EU without ever having to pay the tariff or pass any customs officers. So how could this issue be solved? By looking abroad, there are some examples of borders working very effectively. One of these is the border between Norway and Sweden. Both countries are in the EU single market, but only Sweden is in the customs union too. The customs union and single market are very different things. If you don't know the difference between the two, we have videos explaining both. There's a link in the description. The result of this is that they need customs borders between the countries in the same way that Northern Ireland and Ireland will. They use vast amounts of technology to allow them to scan vehicles to check their contents and match it to what's been disclosed. The process is incredibly automated, to the extent where you can declare goods on your phone. Possibly the best thing for the average person is that vehicles other than trucks and lorries are allowed to cross bridges between Norway and Sweden without customs checks. They are monitored by cameras to ensure that only the right vehicles are crossing, but this means that cars are able to pass without stopping for customs checks. However, this obviously isn't perfectly frictionless like Theresa May wanted. If the UK copied this model, lorries would still need to stop for a few minutes and even longer if they're accused of smuggling. It looks like there's no way that the UK can avoid tightened border security with Ireland. This is unless Northern Ireland leaves the UK and becomes part of the EU again, or even leaves the UK to become part of the Republic of Ireland. The Northern Irish border is a key part of Brexit negotiations, and we will see how it plays out in the coming months. For more news and politics information, subscribe to TLDR News on YouTube.